Today we're looking into something really fundamental, the experience of mothers raising sons.
Yeah, it's a journey, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And we want to go a bit deeper than just, the everyday parenting challenges. We're thinking about the internal work involved for the mother.
Right. It's looking at it less like just, well, child rearing and more like a really significant mission
A
almost.
mission, that's a strong word.
It implies something quite profound, focusing on the specific challenges, sure, but also the huge potential for growth for her and for him.
Okay. So our goal here, our mission for this deep dive is to sort of unpack that. This idea that a mother's own life, her own history, maybe things she hasn't fully dealt with,
Yeah.
how that connects to her son's freedom.
Exactly. His well-being, his ability to be, a present man later in life, it's all linked.
And it sounds like it's less about ticking boxes, getting parenting techniques perfect.
Definitely not about being perfect. I mean, who is? It's more about being true. Authenticity over perfection.
A true mother.
Okay.
So let's dive into the big question then. How does a mother raise her son to be that good man? Present, true to himself, ready for real connection.
And straight away, you see, it lifts it beyond just simple advice, calling it a mission of the soul. That suggests something much, much deeper is at play here.
Right. It touches the core of who the mother is.
Yeah. And this is where it can get challenging for a lot of people. It asks, okay, what if the mother herself didn't have those things growing up?
What if she didn't get respect or presence or that tenderness?
Exactly. What if her background taught her, well, survival, maybe being quiet was safer, or needing to control things felt necessary because, things were chaotic?
So that history she carries, it affects things now.
Inevitably. It has to. It shapes how she relates to her son, how she guides him,
Wow.
often without her even consciously realizing it. It's baked in, you could say.
So the path forward then to raise that kind of man, it actually starts with the mother, with her own inner work.
That's the foundation, bringing order within herself first. It's absolutely crucial.
And what does that look like? What's involved in that inner work?
Well, one really significant piece is looking honestly at her feelings about the son's father, especially if there's anger or hurt or unresolved stuff there.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging it, seeing it, understanding where it comes from. But, and this is critical, not letting that spill onto the son.
He shouldn't have to carry her feelings about his dad.
Absolutely not. He's not the container for that history. Then there's this idea of the mother's own invisible inner child.
The part of her that still feels wounded from her past.
Yeah, exactly. That part might need comfort, soothing, and this is a tough one sometimes, she cannot look to her son to provide that.
Oof. That's a hard boundary.
It's not negotiable, really. He's not there to fix her past or comfort that inner child or carry her emotional weight. That's not his job.
So respecting that boundary, that's a gift to him.
One of the biggest gifts, really. Freedom. The son needs to be free. And it's important here, not free from her, like cut off,
Right.
but free next to her, standing on his own 2 feet, beside her.
What's the distinction there? Free next to her.
It means he gets to live his own life, make his choices, walk his path, have his relationships, while still being connected to her, acknowledging their bond, but without being tangled up in her unresolved stuff.
Okay.
He's his own person alongside her, not holding her up or paying for her past.
And this standing next to idea, it connects to the parent's relationship too, doesn't it?
It does. There's this image presented when the mother finds her place as a woman next to a man, as a partner, not trying to stand over him, controlling or dominating.
Yeah.
That very stance, energetically, makes space for the son to find his place eventually. As a man standing next to a woman in a healthy way, it helps set a kind of natural order.
Interesting. It's like setting a pattern.
A fundamental pattern, yeah. And this also weaves in the whole male lineage, the father's side.
How so?
Well, the idea is that the son carries his father within him. Always. It's not just biology, it's deeper than that.
Even if the father wasn't around or was
And-
difficult.
Yes. Regardless of the father's presence or his actions absent, hurtful, whatever, that connection, that paternal line, is seen as part of the son's core reality.
So how does the mother work with that internally if the father caused harm, for instance?
The inner work isn't about excusing bad behavior, not at all. It's more about adopting an internal stance, saying in her heart something like, okay, you are his father, I gave life, you gave life. That part is true.
Acknowledging the biological fact.
The fundamental fact. And then adding the rest, the conflict, the pain, our issues. That doesn't belong to me to carry forever, and it certainly doesn't belong on my son.
So it's like putting down a burden, letting go of the fight inside.
Precisely. It's described as a release. Not necessarily forgiveness, but letting go of the struggle around it, accepting his dual origin without being caught in the crossfire of the past.
And doing that internal release, what does that do for the son?
It gives him an incredible gift. Freedom. Just
Yeah.
freedom to be himself.
How so?
He gets to integrate his father's lineage without carrying the weight of his mother's unresolved feelings about it. He's not pushed, even subtly, to be her ally against his dad or to make up for his dad's failings.
Or fill that gap.
Exactly. He's free to just be the man he's meant to be with his whole heritage, but not chained to old wounds.
Wow, okay. This also leads to a really different way of looking at difficult behavior in boys, doesn't it?
It really does. Quite radical, actually. It suggests that sometimes when a boy is acting out, maybe he's aggressive or withdrawn, indifferent.
Yeah.
It might not just be because he's being bad. He might be carrying something for others.
Caring for others, what does that mean? Like carrying their emotional baggage?
Sort of. It means his behavior could be an unconscious signal, like he's expressing something unresolved from the wider family system, from the family field, as it's sometimes called.
The family field. Tell me more about that.
Think of it like an invisible network of connections, loyalties, unresolved stuff that links family members, even across generations. Past traumas, secrets, people who were excluded. These things can ripple out and affect people now, often without them knowing why.
Okay, so what kind of things might a son be carrying?
Well, the examples are pretty striking. He might be carrying the unprocessed trauma of a grandfather from a war, or maybe he's mirroring the detachment of a father who couldn't handle responsibility. Or, and this is really important, he could be carrying something for his mother. If her own heart has deep unmet needs, or she distrusts men because of her past, he might unconsciously step into that dynamic.
Whoa. So instead of just punishing the behavior,
But the invitation is to pause, to stop and ask a much deeper question. Hold on. Is his behavior showing me something unfinished in me or in our family's past?
that shifts everything.
It really does. It turns it from a battle with him into maybe an invitation to look within her own story and the family story.
Which brings us back to what he really needs from her, not perfection.
No, never perfection. That's impossible. What he needs is a true mother. Real, authentic.
And what does that look like, being a true mother in this sense?
Well, she's grounded. She's honest. She can admit when she messes up. She doesn't pretend to be perfect. That shows him it's okay to be human.
That's huge.
And critically, this is so vital. She does not make him her emotional partner. She doesn't lean on him for adult comfort or validation that should come from a peer, a partner.
She respects that boundary.
Yeah.
And she teaches him things just by how she lives.
Absolutely. She models integrity,
Yeah.
how to say yes to things, embrace life, but also how to say no firmly, set boundaries without feeling crushed by guilt.
Important life skills.
Essential, and maybe the hardest part. She knows how to love him fiercely, deeply, but also how to let him go.
Ah, the letting go.
Yeah, not clinging as he grows up and inevitably needs to build his own life, his own relationships.
That takes incredible strength, doesn't it? To love and release like that.
It really does. And that strength comes from her being solid within herself. Her security isn't tied to controlling him or keeping him dependent. It comes from her own inner work, her own healing.
When she feels secure inside, she doesn't need to control outside.
You got it. She can trust his journey.
And the long-term effect of all this?
Yeah.
This internal work, being true, allowing freedom, it sounds like it creates something really beautiful down the line.
It does. There's this vision of the future. Someday, another woman meets this man, the son, and with him, she feels truly seen, heard, accepted for who she is.
Wow.
The description is lovely. He sees me, hears me, doesn't try to change me, doesn't fight with me. He just is present.
That's the legacy of that mother's work.
It is. And that future partner, she might never know the details of the mother's quiet internal journey that helped make him capable of that presence. But the mother knows. She knows the mission she undertook.
There's also this idea of a setting or an internal stance that seems to capture these themes.
Right. It kind of summarizes it. It reinforces that, yes, he came through her body physically.
But his soul, his essence, comes from something much bigger, a field bigger than I am. It acknowledges forces beyond just the parents.
And clarifies her role.
Yes, she stands behind him, not blocking his path, trying to direct every step, but behind, offering support, blessing, love, the kind that empowers him.
So he can move forward.
Exactly, into his life, his destiny. With her blessing, ideally feeling light, carrying his own power.
And the final release in that, he doesn't owe her.
He doesn't need to protect her or comfort her constantly or make her happy That's not his responsibility.
Her love, grounded in her own wholeness, is what frees him.
That's the essence of it. Her healed love allows his true freedom to step into his own life, separate from her needs or history.
So, stepping back from this deep dive, it's clear this approach really centers the mother's inner world when thinking about raising sons.
Yeah, it emphasizes her own healing, acknowledging the father's place, however complicated, and this really fascinating idea of sons sometimes carrying family burdens. And ultimately, the power of being that true mother, the one who fosters freedom through her own strength.
It reframes the challenges, doesn't it? Turns them from just problems with the son into potential doorways for the mother's growth, which then, in turn, helps liberate him.
It definitely gives you a lot to think about. Which leads to our final thought for you, the listener. How might this idea of people potentially caring for others in their family system change how you look at difficult behaviors or dynamics you see?
Yeah, whether it's in your own family, friends, or even wider patterns. What hidden stories or unfinished business might be influencing what's happening on the surface. Something to mull over.